Welcome back, everybody, to the Bucs Planet podcast. I'm, of course, your host, Will Neely, and it's been a while. I know I should have done this draft video sooner, but the draft ended on Saturday, and then Sunday I was packing, and then Monday I left for Arizona and Utah for a week. I did a lot of hiking with my family, but now I'm back. I've had a lot of time to think about this video. A lot of time to think about it, and let's just get started here with who we picked first. So the Bucs' biggest needs in the draft, right? They were probably, defensive line, offensive line, maybe a running back, and then a quarterback. And pretty much all those were addressed. I agree with them not taking a running back after Najee and ETM were both unavailable. I think drafting one later that could have also been a project type guy. I don't think that's what we needed. I think if we were to get a running back, it would have had to have been in the first round with either Najee or ETM, but they both weren't there. So we had to resort to picking a defensive lineman, which I support heavily, and that guy is Joe Tryon, defensive end out of the University of Washington. I think this is a great pick. I think it's a home run. But you watch the draft, and we had our pick in. It was the fastest pick I've ever seen in my life. Who picked before us? The Ravens. Ravens picked before us. They picked their guy. And then right when it shows that we're on the clock, immediately the pick is in. The pick was in. So they each get 10 minutes to make their selection. Our pick was in 7 minutes. Every other team, it took them almost all the way down. Ours was in that quickly. We knew that this was our guy. Jason Light and Arians and company knew that this was their guy. And once they knew the Ravens did not pick him, they picked Jason Owe, who I think is going to be a bust. Had 0 sacks last year and played the entire season. So I'm glad they picked him so we could get our guy, Joe Tryon. I think it's a great pick. Everyone who says it's not a good pick, they just don't know what they're talking about. That's how this thing goes. The reason this pick is good is because if you look at his stats from college and 2019, now he opted out in 2020, so he doesn't have any stats there, but his stats in 2019, he had 12 and a half sacks, 12 and a half tackles for loss, 8 sacks. Those pretty good numbers right there. And the main thing that I like about him is he's not just a speed guy. He's not just a only one move kind of a defensive end. He has multiple pass rushing moves in the bag. Now, it's not very many. He's going to need to get more if he wants to be good in the NFL. But he has good hands, right? He has a good swim move. He uses his hands correctly. I like that. His footwork is pretty good. Needs some improvement. And overall, he just needs to get more pass rushing moves under his belt to be able to use in a game. He's kind of like a taller version of Shaq Barrett, in my opinion. Shaq Barrett came out of college, not a lot of pass rushing moves. He learned under Von Miller for a long time, couple years. Then he comes here and is a beast, has a ton of pass rushing moves. I think this guy can be the same way. He's not going to play immediately. He's going to play, but he's going to be a rotational guy. He's not going to be the full-time starter unless, someone gets injured. And then learning under Jason Pierre-Paul, a veteran, a very good veteran, Shaq Barrett, a veteran, very good veteran too, he'll be able to hopefully accumulate more moves that he'll one day be able to use in a game when he's starting full-time. And that's why I think this pick's a home run. If he played in 2020, I listened to people, this is what they said, that they said probably would happen, assuming that he had similar numbers as he did in 2019. Joe Tryon would be a top 15, top 10 pick in the whole draft if he played last year. But he opted out, realized it was a mistake, and about game 3 of their season, he tried to come back. They said, you can't do that, so he's like, okay, whatever. And then he just trained for the NFL draft. And so that's another thing too, is he could have learned a ton of pass rushing moves since his year in 2019. He's had a whole year off. I'm sure he's done a lot of work. I'm sure he's perfected his craft, learned a couple more moves, and he's ready to play. He's eager to play. It's been a year without football. I'm sure he's eager to play. And so I think it's a home run pick. I think it's a steal. I think it's probably one of the biggest steals in the draft, to be honest with you, because of the fact that this guy probably would have gone top 15 or top 10, as some people said, if he did play last year and had the similar numbers. So it's a great pick. I love it. You can't, you can never have enough defensive linemen. You just can't. You just can't. Can't do it. Can't have enough. Can't have enough of them. And they get injured all the time. You always can have, more, especially because this guy's technically listed as a linebacker, but he's really a defensive end, which is, how our guys are. They're linebackers that are technically defensive ends because that's how the scheme fits in a 3-4 defense with Todd Bowles' system. And I think it's a great pick. Great pick. It's the best thing they probably could have done. So now if we go on to the second round here, so I'm going to give you a grade. I'm going to give you all a grade for this draft. So I would say, like everything included, this draft is a B. This draft is a solid B. And this draft would have been an A+ if it wasn't for this pick. It goes, let me explain to you how this draft goes. Round 1, A+. Round 2, F. Round 3, A+. Round 4, A+. Round 5, A+. 7A, 6A. Okay? That's how the draft went. That's how the draft went. So if you throw out the F- pick in the second round, this is pretty much an A draft. It is. It's just the one pick is just holding it down. So let's talk about Kyle Trask, the quarterback we picked out of Florida. I said they were going to take one. I said they were going to take one, and you could have picked a lot of quarterbacks. A lot of quarterbacks. I had them picking a lot of quarterbacks, and this is the one you could have picked, and this is what they pick. There's a lot of issues with Kyle Trask, and that's why I do not like this pick at all. I understand that it might seem biased because I go to FSU, but I mean, I don't really care. I really keep NFL and college separate. I mean, I'm not one of those guys. I don't really understand these guys, actually. In fact, maybe you guys can comment and explain to me why your thought process is so flawed, but whatever. A lot of people, they go to a college, okay? You support the team, and then just because your play, like a player from your college goes to the NFL, then they just become fans of them for their whole career. I don't really get that. I keep it separately. So the second a player from FSU, the second they leave, they're dead to me. They are dead to me. If they're not on the Bucs, I don't care about them. I hope they have a terrible career. Sorry. If you're a player, if you're my favorite FSU player of all time, you win us a national championship, you do all those things, you get drafted to the Saints, I hate you, I hope you have a bad career. Sorry. I keep things separately. A lot of you guys, they don't, a lot of these college fans, they don't keep things separately. So all these fans now of Florida that are, they're hyping up this pick, and of course they don't know what they're talking about. This is typical them. And I'm going to make an entire video explaining the mechanical flaws with Kyle Trask, his inability to read defenses. I don't actually care about his slow mobility. People are like, oh, he's slow. I don't care that he's slow. I don't care. I mean, look, who just won the Super Bowl last year? Thank you. And his lack of arm strength. There's a lot of issues with him, and I'm going to talk about that in a separate video. So, and this one I'm just going to kind of just briefly say I don't like it. There's going to be a super in-depth video just talking about Kyle Trask, because I think it's a long conversation that we're all going to have together. We're all going to sit down. We're going to have it. And all you Florida fans aren't going to listen to me, and that's okay because I don't care about you. All right, so pick F-. I think this is bad. Now, the good news is he's obviously not going to play for hopefully 2 years. And so whether I'm right or wrong about him, we're not going to really know for probably another 4 years because he's not going to play for another couple years. Then you have to let him play for a year and then probably another year. So, you have to see how this goes. Obviously, a lot of stuff can happen between now and then, of course. But this is Brady's successor. This is who the coaching staff wanted, apparently. And I do trust the coaching staff. I do trust the coaching staff. Jason Light, I'm starting to get there. This kind of hurt me a little bit. But I do think that there is potential, kind of potential, I guess. Like that's the issue. That's the issue with this. And again, we'll talk about it later, but I guess the one good thing is, so obviously he's going to sit behind the GOAT. I mean, he's going to sit behind the GOAT. He's going to be a little bit better. I think he's going to be a little bit better. He's sit behind the GOAT. So behind the GOAT for a couple years, he's going to play. And, hopefully he fixes a lot of that stuff. And a lot of the stuff can be fixed, but there's just so much stuff, it's probably not all going to get fixed. So hopefully, his ability to read defenses gets a little bit better. And his mechanical issues, I think that Brady will help a lot with because, they're already texting, they're already, coordinating when they're going to throw the balls together and all these things. And so I think the mechanical issues could be fixed with that. He has a very slow release. It's an extreme issue. I think, unless he fixes it. Um, so yeah, I would have rather Kellen Mond. I think I would have rather Davis Mills or rather some of these other guys. And the funny thing is I talked about Davis Mills, all these things, and then Davis Mills got drafted to the Texans, and he's probably going to go on and have a horrible career. And then all the guys will be like, "Oh, you wanted Davis Mills?" But look, you have to understand, whatever quarterback got drafted to the Texans, who's just going to be literally thrown into the fire with a bottom 2 roster in the league. I mean, they're going to be bad. It doesn't really matter who the quarterback is. So, if we could just skip that entire argument altogether, that'd be really nice. Now, moving on, round 3. Bucs take tackle out of Notre Dame, Robert Hainesy. I love this pick. I love the pick. The offensive line is good, but obviously you need, we're in a luxury position. We don't have a lot of needs. We can take offensive linemen, for depth, and now we needed a guard more than we did at tackle, but this guy, Robert Hainesy, he's played guard before. He's a very versatile offensive lineman. In fact, that's what won the Bucs over with him. In fact, that's what Jason Light said and Bruce Arians. Robert Hainesy's impressive versatility is what won them over. That's what they said. And so I think it's a great pick. He can come in because sometimes you have plays where they're heavy running plays and you bring in a couple tackles and, he'll be one of them. And I think he'll be good. And if one of our guys gets injured, you have a pretty good guy from, Notre Dame produces the best offensive linemen usually. So we got one of those guys sitting on the bench, develop a little bit. He can sit behind Wirfs and a couple other of these guys, and they're pretty good. Wirfs pretty good. So I think this is a great pick. Again, more depth. You can never have enough defensive and offensive linemen. They just get injured so frequently, and there's a lot of plays where you use more than one defensive end, defensive tackle or offensive lineman with tackle or guard or whatever. And this is where this pick comes in. So I think it's another great pick. A+. So we went A+, F-, A+. That's where we're at right now. So now round 4. This one's interesting. The Bucs traded up to get Jalen Jordan, wide receiver out of North Texas. I think this is another great pick. It's another great pick. And now it's funny. He's 173 pounds and he's 5'8". So he's kind of got that Devontae Smith. He's like a shorter Devontae Smith. And the reason I think this is a great pick is because the Bucs are the only team in the NFL, I think, that have never had a punt return touchdown before. And we've only had one ever kick return touchdown. That was a big thing back in the day. We had a kick return touchdown the year we won the Super Bowl. And we haven't had one since, I don't think. And it was the longest special teams drought ever for any NFL team before we got that kick return touchdown. But then even since then in 2003 or it was 2002 season, so since 2002, we haven't had any kick return touchdowns. We haven't had any punt return touchdowns ever. And the reason this is important is because this player that we picked will be our special teams guy. He did it in college. Everyone, at least all the analysts have been saying, and from what I've heard, when I've read articles and stuff, that Jalen Jordan, even though he's a wide receiver, he's mostly going to be a special teams guy. He's going to take punts. He's going to field kick returns. I mean, I think this is fantastic. The Bucs needed a good kick returner. This has been, honestly, an Achilles heel for a long time. And a lot of people think, oh, it's just a kick returner. It doesn't really matter. It does, because when we have the idiots that take our punts now, Jaden Mickens, he was an incredible comeback story. He was homeless. He lived in his car. He makes the team. He becomes our kick returner and punt returner. He's not very good at it, but he became it. And he was just not that good, in my opinion. He was okay at best. I mean, his peak was just being okay. I mean, he didn't fumble it, so I guess that's good. But then now, he got arrested for all those gun charges, so I don't know what's up with him. I mean, he's also not that good, so, I mean, I'm kind of, cool comeback story. You kind of blew it, dude, so see ya. And now we got this guy, Jalen Jordan. I think this is perfect. And, the thing I don't understand is we could have good returners. Antonio Brown needs to be fielding punts. That needed to be a thing for a long time. I mean, you bring, and at the time when we first signed him, Antonio Brown was a huge risk, right? Huge risk. So you might as well use him for anything you got, slot receiver and put him at punts. Put him at punts. They didn't do it. I don't know why. And then it was a crime shame that Scotty Miller was not fielding punts or kick returns. He's so fast. And all the Bucs do during the offseason, all they do during practice, they post all these videos of Scotty Miller fielding, fielding punts. He fielded, was it 7 footballs? They had 7 footballs. He fielded 7 footballs in one go. He held them like this. He had one between his legs. He had 6 in his arms. It was crazy. He fielded 7 footballs. And then they post that video. You're thinking, oh, well, this guy, he was probably going to be our kick returner. He's probably going to be our punt returner. And then what do they do? He's just not. He's not our punt returner. He's not our kick returner. He's not anything except our fast slot wide receiver, which is fine, but we don't have a good kick returner to make up for the fact that he is not our kick returner. So hopefully, I think this is at least a sign that the Bucs are like, well, we're going to get a fast, speedy, versatile kick returner. That's what Jalen Jordan is. He's undersized. But all he has to do, if you can look at his highlights, he's pretty good. You can watch his film. He's very shifty. He's fast, and I think he'd be a good kick returner. And I'm pretty sure that's what we're going to use him for. But you never know with us in the kick returners. You never know. So again, A+. And we traded up about 10 picks to get this guy. Maybe even more. And so we better be using him as something. He better be something. We traded up 10 picks to get this guy in round 4. Now, here we go with rounds 5 through 7. So we did not have a 6th-round pick because we traded it with the Seahawks when we traded up to get Jalen Jordan. Now, here's the thing that, a lot of people don't really realize. So the Bucs have the best roster in the NFL. Okay, everybody knows that. Everybody knows we have the best roster in the NFL. It's a thing. It's been a thing. The best roster in the NFL. We drafted, let's see. We drafted 7 players because we had 2 7th-round picks. So we drafted 7 players, and I can tell you pretty much for a fact, there are not 7 roster spots available on this team. There's not. Not everyone in this draft will be making the team. And kind of about round 5 is where I think that there could be a little bit of discretion. I mean, Joe Trion's locked in. He's locked in unless he gets, arrested or something. That goes with everyone. But Joe Trion's, he's going to be in there. Kyle Trask is going to be in there. Obviously, he's not going to be starting, but he's going to be in there. I think Hainesy's going to get in there. Jordan probably will. And then after that, I don't know if these guys are going to make the team. I don't know if they're even going to make the team. They could make practice squad, but they're probably just going to leave and make someone else's team, if that's a thing, because our roster's so good. So in round 5, the Bucs pick linebacker KJ Brit out of Auburn. We've had some good luck with Auburn defenders to get Jamel Dean, Carlton Davis. They've been pretty good. I mean, Jamel Dean's so-so. Carlton Davis has been pretty good. So we get KJ Brit, and then we picked. That was LSU. Never mind. So KJ Brit, he had very productive years at Auburn. Now obviously the Bucs have probably the 2 best inside linebackers in the entire NFL. He will not be starting. This is almost purely a special teams pick. So hopefully he makes the team. So I'm sure that he's just going to be used as a rotational linebacker in case of injuries or for just certain defensive packages for blitzing and such. And then mostly as a special teams guy. That's kind of how I see him panning out. So again, this is after round 4. I mean, it's just like this is an A pick, I guess, like whatever. And the same thing goes with Chris Wilcox, our round 7 pick, our first round 7 pick, a cornerback out of BYU. Again, he's going to be a special teams guy. We lost Ryan Smith in free agency, who was our main gunner. He needed to go. I mean, he's been on the team long enough. I mean, he's not been very good. He's good on special teams, but it's like, really? I mean, it was time. And now Chris Wilcox, I think, is a guy they drafted to kind of bring in to semi-replace that role that he played of a gunner, which, if you don't know what that is, it's on the punt special teams when you punt the ball. They have 2 gunners, 2 or 3, depending on kind of what you run. And the gunners are usually just very fast players. They sprint down the field, they down the ball. So when the ball bounces, assuming it's not returned, so if you're punting from the 50 and you're trying to down this inside, the 10-yard line, the gunners are the people that, sprint. They line up on opposite sides of the field. They're way on the outside. They run down. They try to down the ball and or tackle the returner. That's their job. Chris Wilcox is a guy that they drafted to do this. So that's pretty much how I see him working out. Again, he might not even make the team. He's a round 7 pick. They're essentially undrafted at this point. And then with the 259th pick, the Bucs picked Mr. Irrelevant this year. That's, in case you don't know, that's what they call the last pick in the draft. And we picked another inside linebacker, Grant Steward. And again, this is another special teams pick. I don't know if he's going to make the team. He's an inside linebacker from Houston, 5'11", 230 pounds. And, we'll see. I think he's, again, just going to be a special teams guy. The guy, he might be on kick returns and, tackle the other team's kick returner, or I guess it's called the kickoff team. And, he's probably going to be on, field goal block teams. I guess. I mean, he's not going to start, obviously, so unless there's a massive amount of injuries or he shows off or something. But that's pretty much how I see that going. We signed a couple of, undrafted free agents. Not that many. In fact, we signed almost the least, I think, out of every single NFL team, because obviously we don't really have that many spots, but you always need to bring in some for competition. And one of those guys is, here we go again. We brought in the Lou Graza award-winning kicker from last year, the kicker from Miami. How many times do we have to say Lou Graza on this podcast? I hate saying it. Do you know why? Because when I say it, that makes me have a bad kicker. But this is just competition for Ryan Suckup. And, obviously Ryan Suckup should win this, but you always have to bring in a guy to kind of compete for a job, make sure that keeps their competitive edge. We were signed Ryan Suckup to a 3-year deal. So, he's going to win. He's going to stay pretty much. But this guy will, show him up. We know how this goes with us. All of a sudden, we're going to start reading reports saying, oh, Miami kicker, starting to look better than Suckup. Oh, Suckup goes 0 for 6 today in field goals. Oh, the new kicker goes 6 for 6 in field goals. Is this actually a competition now? And then all of a sudden you get your little notification on your phone that says Ryan Suckup's cut. They give it to the other guy, and then the other guy becomes the worst kicker of all time. Okay, whatever. We know that. Now, we kind of broke that streak last year because Ryan Suckup was actually really good. But, we just know how this goes. We know how it goes. So, hopefully everything just goes according to plan with that. But that's pretty much our draft. Again, I'm going to make an entire separate video about Kyle Trask. And, again, I give the Bucs a B. If it wasn't for Kyle Trask, I would give them an A. This was a great draft. It's great for depth, and we added a dimension to special teams, I think, with the kick returner, Jalen Jordan. And I think it's a great draft. So until the Kyle Trask video, I will see you guys next time, and go Bucs.